Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says Singapore looks forward to working with China on the bilateral and ASEAN fronts. He made the remarks as he met Chinese Premier Li Keqiang on the first day of his 5-day visit to China. Singapore is ASEAN chair this year, as well as coordinator for ASEAN-China dialogue relations till mid-year. Mr. Lee said while some items on the agenda are already in progress, he looked forward to making further efforts to deepen relations and cooperation. Prime Minister Lee also congratulated Premier Lee on his reappointment to a second term last month. The leaders witnessed the signing of 2 memorandums of understanding. The first is between Singapore's Trade and Industry Ministry and the National Development Reform Commission. It's to promote greater collaboration between Singapore and Chinese companies in third-party markets along the Belt and Road. That's the ambitious Chinese initiative that aims to connect Asia, Europe, the Middle East and Africa. A working group to identify sectors and markets of mutual interest will be set up, and both sides will organize regular business matching activities and forums. Singapore and China will also work with banks and financial institutions to support the financing and project structuring needs of third-party market ventures by companies from both sides. An MOU between the National Heritage Board and China's State Administration of Cultural Heritage was also renewed. This will allow both sides to collaborate in more areas like exhibition and loan exchange, as well as research and publications. Now let's take a look at the itinerary of Mr. Lee's trip.
Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong will be visiting Beijing, China's southern island province Hainan, and Shanghai this time round. His trip comes about 7 months after his last visit to China, just before the country's ruling Communist Party held its 5-yearly 19th Party Congress in October last year, the all-important meeting where its top party leadership was announced. And the timing of Mr. Lee's visit this time is also key, as it's taking place less than a month after China's parliament and top political advisory body held its annual sessions, endorsing a 5-yearly reshuffle of government positions. On Monday, Mr. Lee will meet newly appointed Vice President Wang Qishan, the former anti-corruption chief, who is also widely seen as the right-hand man of Chinese President Xi Jinping. As Vice President, Mr. Wang is also expected to play a key role in China's foreign affairs policy. The next day, PM Lee will then for the first time attend the Boao Forum for Asia annual conference and speak at the opening plenary. The conference, which is known as Asia's Davos, is also being attended by President Xi, who is expected to unveil China's new reform and opening up measures. Mr. Xi and Mr. Lee will also have a bilateral meeting. As for issues that could be discussed during PM Lee's visit, well, these include new areas of cooperation between Singapore and China, as well as ASEAN-China cooperation, as Singapore is chairman of the regional bloc this year. Other international issues are also likely to surface during the meetings. These include China-US relations as fears of a trade war loom, along with developments in the Korean Peninsula. Olivia Seong, Channel News Asia, Beijing.
Separately, Foreign Affairs Minister Vivian Balakrishnan met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Beijing today. Both men reaffirmed bilateral ties and stressed the importance of upholding free trade. Dr. Balakrishnan said he looks forward to the upgrade of the Singapore-China Free Trade Agreement this year. He noted it would send a very positive message in a time where it's tempting to embark on unilateralism and protectionism. Mr. Wang, who was recently promoted to State Councillor, said Singapore has always been a supporter of free trade, something that can be learnt by others. This year marks the 40th year of China's opening up and reform policy. It's also 40 years since then Paramount leader Deng Xiaoping visited Singapore. Dr. Balakrishnan stressed that there have been many opportunities to learn from each other since then, with both countries being able to cooperate very effectively at different stages of development. The two foreign affairs ministers met a total of 6 times last year, the most recent being in November on the sidelines of the Asia-Europe meeting.